All right, now for bankers, that's nothing. A $200,000 reward, $250,000 get deposited in your bank. You've already been royally screwed by Minnesota. I mean, just royally, truly screwed on a vast, immense scale. This technology's been delayed between approvable 7 years, bare minimum, and 20 years, somewhere in that range. Every year a delay, $7 trillion worth of damage to the U.S. economy. The bankers' share of having to eat that loss, go without the money they could have had, is about $6 trillion of that $7 trillion. $7 trillion a year in damage to the gross national product. Works out to about $20 billion a day in damage. About 18 billion of that suffered by the banks. Now the facts, documentation, witnesses, history that exist, I can prove what Minnesota pulled. I have the original fine payment agreement that shows what the date of the suspension was supposed to be, and I have the original ticket that I received in Illinois that shows the license was suspended 2 weeks before it was supposed to be suspended. Being able to prove 1 day of delay would mean that the bankers in the United States are entitled to about $18 billion in damages from the state of Minnesota. Now, it'd be nice if you people would show some patriotism to your own cause, yourself, your country. A bunch of criminal jackasses in Minnesota take a vast, valuable national asset and crap all over it and flush it down a toilet. With the facts that exist, the bankers could go to Minnesota and tell Minnesota, this is the way it's going to be. You're going to give us like X amount, like $100 billion or whatever. Or this is going to go into an Article 3 jurisdiction international court, and it will be the Federal Reserve and Robert Nelson versus the state of Minnesota. No statute of limitations in an Article 3 jurisdiction. And me, by myself, and other Tom, Dick, and Harry down the block, the odds of actually holding an Article 3 jurisdiction court trial are pretty much like zero. The bankers, on the other hand, can do it in their sleep. Be a lot more money for the banks than this thing about Burlington Northern. I'd also be willing and happy, like, have the Brotherhood, the banks, Warren Buffett, major shareholder of Burlington Northern, come to some understanding and just receive the average salary of Burlington Northern's board of directors for 22 years. And all I would want out of it would be the money I should have got out of the railroad invention in the first place, and the bankers can have the rest, which would be a lot more than $200,000, $250,000. I need to talk to a lawyer, I guess, one of the bankers' lawyers. I can't even afford a damn cell phone. Been beat down so far into the ghetto. Yeah, I get silver poisoning, get disability for it, so my income hasn't exceeded $900 a month for like 15 years, except once when a bank back in Oklahoma, IBC, screwed up $400 in my favor and let me keep it for some strange reason. Honesty reward or something. It was like $1,200 I got that month or something like that. And what am I supposed to do with resources like that? You know, I ain't the only one that's been screwed. It's screwed all of you, and it's going to screw you worse before it's done. Every day a delay could mean the difference between whether the economy is destroyed or not, whether we have nuclear war over the oil running out in the world versus China. You know, the price of oil goes higher and higher and higher. If you're a banker, you ought to know what the United States has done. We're on the verge of hyperinflation now. Money has already taken a serious hit, and it's going to get more and more worthless the more of it gets printed up. The government doesn't really have a choice in the matter anymore but to do it. Now what do you think's going to happen if, say, China dumps most or all of its treasury securities and the towelheads sink their own oil super tankers? Do you expect them to just give their oil away for free in exchange for worthless pieces of paper? What do you think? Well, what do you think life in this country is going to be like after that? The Mexicans will be building up a wall to keep Americans out. Whether I get the resources I need or not is likely to decide it one way or the other. I dealt with retards who were supposed to be intelligent. There's one guy claiming to be associated with NASA was too stupid to figure out that you can't spray like an entire acre all at once because of the water pressure issues. Dismissed the idea because, oh yeah, it wouldn't work because there wouldn't be enough water pressure. It doesn't occur to the retard that you can sequence the spraying of boxes, never spray more than 2 boxes at once. And if this doesn't get through to the right people, somebody runs into some problem, they write it off, they're too stupid to be able to figure out how to fix it. And it could well mean whether you get destroyed or not. I look at Sapphire Energy, synthetic crude oil from algae. Got like $400 million in loans, grants, loan guarantees for a technology that's basically pathetic compared to what I come up with. And I'm sitting there basically begging for food stamps. Anybody else see anything wrong with this? I produced the means to save the bankers, and I would appreciate some, respect and gratitude in return. Now, you can thank the criminal cesspool in this country. That crap Minnesota poll, you can look up on the internet, Dumas, D-U-M-A-S, Dumas, Texas, dumastax.htm and dumasfbi.htm. Look it up on our internet Wayback Machine. Yeah, I should be getting like $2,500 a month bare minimum from ExxonMobil on the ExxonMobil lease, natural gas lease on Nelson number 1 in Dumas, Texas. I got robbed blind out of it, complained to the FBI about it. They do nothing. Goes on right in front of their face. I guess according to the FBI, they're not required by law to actually enforce the law. It's arbitrary. They can choose whether they feel like it or not. They're probably the ones stealing the money. The post office is in on it. And the postmaster in Canton, Minnesota. What's on those web pages? I showed it to the postmaster, a small town like 800. I'm sure she remembers. She's probably still working there, even though it was like 1999. Showed her the contents, put it in the envelope, mailed it registered mail, and never got a response. Nothing ever showed up in my damn mailbox over it. Which means basically under the law, legally, they admit that everything I pointed out in that affidavit is factually accurate. They don't contest any of it. They're required by law to reply within 30 days. And they never replied. If they did, it never showed up either way. It proved that they didn't meet their legal responsibility to deliver legal notices that were required by law to be delivered. Yeah, if you want the details, you have to read those web pages. Yeah, but it's because of all the criminal crap and the damage that I took from it. It's taken like 20 years to do what I should have been able to accomplish in 20 months. I think a little clarification here. Okay, the letter to Burlington Northern. I tried to get this straightened out with Burlington Northern way back in 1992. Burlington Northern. And basically there's references in that letter to that crap that Minnesota pulled causing damage to my spiritual connection. This whole thing, the speed box, is a result of my having a spiritual goal to be an inventor, as is documented in that letter. Now, I'm sure you might find that's all just, very interesting and all, except for the fact that the speed box is probably the largest socio-economic contribution in the history of man. It's no small contribution. It has to raise an eyebrow here and there someplace as to the accuracy of my claim back in '92 and the same claim I made 10 years before that. Now the thing is, it can be shown that what Minnesota did caused a significant delay in the development and implementation of this technology. It can be further shown that every day a delay cost the bankers in the United States about $18 billion in damage. Now I say if it went to an Article 3 jurisdiction court, it's an open and shut case against Minnesota. Minnesota doesn't have a hope in hell of winning. If the case was only, let's say that the damages were only for, say, triple damages, which is entirely possible in an Article 3 jurisdiction court. If there were triple damages, then I would get, 3 times 3.4 million, whatever that is, and the bankers would get 3 times $18 billion. What is that? $54 billion. If the settlement was only for 1 day of delay. The facts and evidence, the documentation I have, the records on YouTube, on the internet, prove a 3.5-year delay beyond any possible doubt because of lack of resources. It's an obvious delay caused obviously by lack of resources. Now you tell me, this could be a lot of money for the banks. Chump change compared to what Minnesota cost the bankers, but it's something. Every day a delay of my not being able to get the repair that I need and do what I'm supposed to be doing could mean the difference between whether you all get destroyed or not. So I think even once have some interest, personal vested interest in it. I mean, past just the ability to get that money for your bank. If nothing else, that exists as a means of repairing this and getting me back on the track I was supposed to be on in the first place, and having some possibility, having some stronger possibility that you're going to avoid being screwed to some degree at least over this. And you already been royally screwed by Minnesota and what they did, some of what other assholes in the government did elsewhere, and you're going to get screwed worse by the time it's done. It can't be prevented, but you can limit it. I mean, it's likely that you're going to end up being screwed way worse than I ever was about a situation. So I don't know, I like to have a lot of options. I plan on trying to get a grant from the Chinese. It might work, it might not. Hell, for all I know, they got the same retardedness and bureaucracy that we got over here. Highest average IQ on the planet, 105, so it's hard to say. They tend to have a more accurate religion. They all have a code, near as I can tell. Got some comprehension of spiritual reality, so it's hard to say. Guess I'll find out when I go and deal with them. It's absolutely necessary that China develops and implements this, and India does also, if you ever want to see any hope of having cheap fuel prices in the United States again. See, I don't know. Me personally, I'm going to try to get a grant from China. This is the largest economic contribution to China anybody ever made. It'll benefit the United States if China and India rapidly implement it on a vast scale, because it'll drop the world demand for crude oil back down below the level of supply. It'll take 15 years to do it. By then, good chance the U.S. is going to have been destroyed economically. There's nothing really I can do about it. But at least to make the rebuilding of it less painful. The reason why fuel prices are so high is because the world demand for crude oil exceeds the supply. The world can only put out 85 million barrels a day, and the demand in 2008 went to 87 million barrels a day. That's why the price of gas skyrocketed to $4. A million people lost their house. 10 million people lost their jobs because of it. It's going to get worse and worse. You'll be surprised if you see 7, 8, 10. Starts going up to about 8 or 9. It'll get to the point where the Arabs will probably sink their own oil super tankers rather than give their oil away for free. That'll get real interesting if that happens. China and India implementing this technology on a massive scale might be the only thing that can prevent that from happening. So yeah, personally I'm tired of the criminal cesspool. In my experience, the government's a bunch of criminals, traitors, mindless, retarded automatons that just do what they're programmed to do and nothing else. There's no mechanism that exists to deal with individual issues. It's not as if I'm unpatriotic or anything, but goddamn, I've been screwed so long. Particularly out of female I needed for like more than 20, 25 years because a bunch of assholes beat me down into the ghetto. I would plan on going to Russia, where females outnumber males 1.9 to 1 in my age range, 1.7 to 1 in age range either side. Очень хорошо. But it'd be better if the bankers would try to nullify that insult that went on in the past, either by helping me with the Brotherhood or helping me and helping themselves considerably by having Minnesota pay back some of the damage they caused. There's basically hundreds of millions of people have been sentenced to starvation death because I wasn't able to do what I was supposed to be doing. Falls to the purview of lawyers, I guess, who know more about the law than I. I mean, there's limits to what I can do for you if I don't get any help with my problems. I mean, something like this, with the dangers that exist, I mean, is it something you really want to trust to a bunch of retards? And just chance as to whether, the right people end up with it or not. Here as I can tell, with all the tards I've had to deal with, censorship on the internet, what ain't censored is a bunch of complete idiots. The only hope you got probably is my dealing with China. I don't know, it's just that there's a black poisonous cloud of bad spiritual karma hanging around over the starvation death of all those people. It's already caused trouble, it's going to cause more if it doesn't, if it constitutes a spiritual insult. It needs to be nullified. I mean, with my contribution to China, I should be able to ask China for anything I want and be able to get it. I mean, you figure it out. I mean, Sapphire Energy in the United States got $400 million worth of loans, grants, loan guarantees for a technology that's pathetic compared to mine. And the United States is decimated economically, whereas China has a powerful economy, got so much money, don't know what to do with it all. They're building empty cities just to give people something to do for a living. So I mean, if you want to pass up on a lot of money your bank could have had, it's your own business, I guess. I'd say it'd be well worth your time to get me together with one of your lawyers and see what the potential is here. I mean, it could be proven that those people up in Minnesota did screw you people in the banking system good. By the time they're done, they may have destroyed the United States economically by interfering with what I was supposed to do, successfully delaying it long enough to where it wasn't able to make a difference. Yeah, my income needs to improve